Okay, finally. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And now I'm so happy everyone's sitting together because we will do a pair exercise later. But since the screen is on now, we will start. So, the title of this workshop is Essential Negotiation Skills for Maritime Purchasers and Suppliers. I think we have quite a good mix here today. So, I hope that some of what is shared here you will find relevant, even if it's not all applicable. The idea is to provide you with a framework that you can apply your current negotiation skills and build on. Just to briefly introduce myself, I have been in the industry for 12 years, and I spent the first 6 of them as a technical purchaser, working for some of these names that you know. And for the last 6 years, I have been in business development in a commercial role, working, like many of you, representing ship supply or other types of businesses. And one of the common denominators for me in this 12-year journey has been the IMPA catalog that all of you are familiar with, as well as the IMPA Singapore events. I've been coming for 8 years. And at my first IMPA event, I attended a procurement workshop. And for me, that was one of the most eye-opening experiences I had, even though I was already a purchaser. So this is kind of my way of giving back to IMPA, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today. Okay. So before we dive into the content of the workshop, I want you to take a moment in your mind to think, what does negotiation mean to you? What do you define it as? One of the leading speakers and authors on negotiation, his name is Chris Voss. He's a former FBI negotiator. He identifies negotiation as nothing more and nothing less than communication with results. Communication is a big word, and obviously we all understand what this means. But in the context of the work that we all do today, EDI, Power BI, data in interchange, computers are communicating with one another better than humans are. So for the purpose of this workshop, to be very clear on what we're talking about, the definition is negotiation is human communication with results. And we are leaning on this human element to be the game changer in the way that you speak to your customers and to your suppliers in a way that computers are not yet able to replicate. So with this definition in mind, okay, before I move on, I also wanted to say that in every one of us, there is an innate need to be heard and understood. And even when we work in businesses and on behalf of organizations, we all want to be understood. And you may not be the most talkative person or the most expressive, and you may just be really good at what you do. But when you meet with a customer or a supplier, you want to be understood. You want your needs to be heard and your wants to be comprehended. So, before I proceed into the elements of negotiation in the framework, I think it's really important that we reframe. Sorry, I've been trying to get the mouse to move, but it's not moving. That it's important that we reframe our beliefs about negotiation, because we can have some really, really strong beliefs about negotiation. The second half was not supposed to appear first, but it did. So on the left side, you see some of these thoughts that people often have when they think about what negotiation means to them. They think, I probably need to be quite secretive about some information, and not about proprietary information or private company information, but simply I need to hold my cards close to my chest so that I maintain the upper hand. Another one that we often think of is, this person that I'm negotiating with is my opponent. We also think that negotiation is often confrontational, and that makes us very uncomfortable. We also think that price is the main lever or the only lever that is a consideration in negotiation. And we think that talkative people make the best negotiators. So, as we move into the workshop, I want you to reframe those thoughts in your mind, because to be honest, and from experience and in the negotiation framework, experts are also telling us that transparency can actually help you more than it can hurt you. For information that is not private and undisclosed information to public. But for example, things like the movement of your fleet, what you plan to invest in and work on in the next few months or years. It can be a game changer in the way that you speak to your counterparty. And then your counterparty is the next point. Don't think of them as your enemy. They are your collaborator, somebody that you want to achieve a mutual win with. And you can change your mindset of confrontation to one of collaboration. So price is also not the only lever that is important, but non-financial levers can be really important as well. And I'm sure you can think of them in your own business, that there are levers that don't come down to dollars and cents, or outcomes that you arrive at that are not related to price at all. Okay? So the last point about talkative people being the best negotiators will be a point that I expand on later on. Listening is your superpower when it comes to negotiation. And I hope that this point will be really interesting for you later on. Okay? Any comments on the reframing of mindset? Anything? If you want to comment at any point, please let me know. So now we will do the pair exercise, because I want to set the stage for the few points that we will be talking about later. So this is my best friend, this guy. If you know him, please let me know where I can find him. So turn to the person next to you. Okay, if you don't have someone next to you, make a pair, maybe turn behind or so, and each pair gets $100. Okay? Virtual money, I'm not, but this is your $100 on the screen. Virtual money. One person is the giver and one person is the receiver of the $100. And if you cannot decide, just make the person on the left the giver and the person on the right and the receiver. Okay? Sorry, actually, the instructions come out. Okay, so the giver has $100. You are to decide how much of it you are going to give to the receiver. Any number, but just make it a whole number. Okay? The receiver accepts or rejects. You don't need to explain why or whatever. Just accept or reject it. If you reject, the $100 comes back to me. But if you accept, so the receiver's decision hinges on the outcome. If you reject it, I get the $100 back. But if you accept it, then both of you get to keep the money. So, yeah, okay, let's just take 3 minutes and do it now. And then we will talk about the results. Okay? Anyone doesn't have a pen, I'll do it with you. Turn around, there's people behind you. What?
I've never split the difference, so it won't be fair if I play the activity.
Try, then you can be the giver. Only one offer. You cannot change your offer after extending it. Okay, has everyone come to an agreement with your partner? Okay, I think everyone's done. Okay, so question. Joyo and this. So how? What? What was your agreed split? Ah, shaking on it. What was your agreed split? Just numbers. Don't need to explain. 50-49. Silka and your part. Okay. Anyone offered 60-40 or wider of a split? Oh, you. reject, you don't get. You guys don't follow instructions. One offer to be made. So nobody offered 60-40 or wider of a split. Okay, so 75-25. Did you accept the offer? So when this exercise is run in bigger groups, you see the variations of responses. There's people who offer 10-90. And invariably, it almost always gets accepted. My question to you is, why didn't you offer $1? What are some of the reasons you didn't just offer the person $1? Any comments? Stingy. Stingy. Any other comment? I've heard. Okay. Yeah. So you want to be fair. You want to be fair. You want to achieve a fair outcome. Right. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. Win-win. Actually, the purpose of this exercise is not really to show your negotiation skills. It's to display one thing. We think that it's not fair or it's stingy. I've heard before, like damage control. You want to save the relationship. But it only shows one thing. There's no right or wrong here. It shows that we operate with emotions in negotiation. Ultimately, price is a very big lever and the relationship is key. But how do you get there? It's your emotions at play. And you are thinking about the emotions of the other person as well. And I think this is the premise of the entire workshop. I hope the exercise, as silly as it was, you are absolutely correct. You want to achieve a win-win. You want a fair outcome. But the premise of the exercise is to show that we operate on emotions when it comes to negotiating. And I think and also nobody negotiates in the exact same way. So that's what you want to achieve. When you approach negotiation as an emotional exercise, that's when a lot of things can change for you rather than coming at it simply as, I just got to get this over with. Okay? So in the framework of negotiation, there are two distinct functions. Firstly, influencing behavior of your counterparty, and the other one is gathering information. And we will talk about these two within the framework today. Let me move on. Quick time check. Okay, we got time. So, first of all, we want to talk about the element of influencing behavior. And to me, this is the most interesting one because I went through some negotiation training only after many years of practicing negotiation in my own life. And it was so interesting for me because now I finally could put a name to all the elements of what I had been learning over time. And I also felt like I wish somebody had taught me the framework before so that I could learn more quickly. So that's the goal of the workshop today and what I hope you will take away from this. So the first one in the negotiation framework is the similarity principle. This principle taps into the fundamental human tendency that we all have to feel more comfortable with and to trust people who have some similarities to us, whether it's in common characteristics, your background, or your experiences. When you find a shared line that you both have and you are able to talk about it and exchange information, that's when you build that human connection. People are more in business, people are more likely to agree with or be influenced by those who they perceive as similar to themselves. So, I have a story that happened not too long ago with a client who at one point told me, my favorite color is green. It was over a Chinese New Year lunch. He said, my favorite color is green. So, and then he told me, I don't remember what the story was. But then, the next time I was meeting him, he was a really important stakeholder. So I said, I think I'll wear something green. And every time since then, when I meet him, whether it's carrying a green pen or having a watch with a green face, he always notices it. And he doesn't remember that he told me this, but he will tell me, you know what? I really like the color green. And it's something for us to bond on. And this is a very, very minor experience that is not crucial to your negotiation, but it's just one example that shows you that people connect on the smallest of things, but they also connect even more strongly with you when you find things that they really, really believe in. So say, for example, your supplier or your customer says, these are our ESG principles, what we are working for in sustainability, what we will be investing for in the future. And if you have some similarities in that, in the way your company is operating, in the way that you want to work in the maritime space, find those commonalities and talk about it. Be open with what you are interested in, what you are investing in, and that's one way to make a lasting connection. The next point is the accusation audit. The accusation audit is to identify and address any potential negative thoughts of your business counterparty before they have a chance to express it. So what the point of this achieves is that by acknowledging them from the outset, you put them in a position where they think less of these negative thoughts as they journey down, because you've already diffused them by putting them out in the open. You tell them, perhaps you think that this agreement is not entirely fair, or perhaps you feel like this might be taking advantage of certain elements of your business. And the human response in most situations will be tell you, no, not really, not really. And then they have a chance to explain their position. But because you've already diffused it, they're not able to come out at it and criticize you later on. Some examples that if you are a maritime purchaser that I can think of is, if you are from a small company, or you tell them, you must think that my volume is not very big, and you will prefer the business of a bigger competitor. And what will the most likely response be? No, 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 you're really valuable to us as well. And by that, you have worked to affirm in your favor by putting that thought that they've had out in the open first. So that's how an accusation audit works. Try and think of some that you could do in the next negotiation that you have with your business partner and see if it works. I want to show you next 3 response tactics that you can try in the way that you discourse with your business partners. The first one is effective pauses. People are quite uncomfortable with silences. So when you're having a conversation, if I just look at you and nod and smile, you're quite likely to fill that silence with more talk, more chatter. And when you're negotiating, that's one way for you to receive more information. So get uncomfortable with silence. Get uncomfortable with effective pauses, because it leaves room for your counterparty to volunteer more information. One simple tip is to accompany the silence with short verbal affirmations like, I'm listening, I hear you. And people are more likely to feel that because you're listening, I'll continue talking. Another response tactic that you can try is mirroring. Mirroring is a subconscious display that you captured the importance of what they have said. You can repeat the last 2 to 3 words that your counterparty has stated. So, for example, maybe you tell me that, oh, I'm sorry I'm so late today, the traffic was terrible. I'm like, oh, terrible traffic. And it's a very awkward sounding response tactic that people think, I could never do this, or it sounds really strange. But when next time you hear someone who you feel connects with you really well, listen to them. It's very likely that this is one of the subconscious tactics. They may not even know it's the term the mirroring, but this is one way that people connect with you or show you that they're listening to you, listening to your perspective, to your experience of bad traffic or whatever it was. And mirroring can be very helpful, especially when you're talking about really tough elements of the negotiation and you hear something that you know is very important to your counterparty. Try mirroring it. It shows your empathy for what they have to say. Okay, reinforces that you are paying attention and care about what they have to say. And the third tactic is labeling. So labeling is using sentences to in a way, not mirror, but to identify the emotion that they're bringing to the discussion and labeling it, whether you label it wrongly or rightly, of course, try to label it correctly. But if you label it wrongly, they will tell you so. And it's one way to connect with them as well. It seems like, or it sounds as if, or it appears as if you need. And I think you can think of examples of how this can be useful to you already. Or it seems like this is a pain point for you. It seems like this is a frustration to you. Or this is something that you need changed. And then that opens the conversation for you to discuss further. When you label a positive emotion, or you sound really excited about this, it affirms it. And labeling a negative emotion diminishes it. So when you say, oh, it sounds like you're really frustrated about this, I understand your pain, then you feel immediately heard and seen, and you are less likely to feel the frustration as we move along in the negotiation. So I think labeling is one of my favorite elements of negotiation, and I was very happy when I found the term labeling, because I realized this is why I perceive some people to be really good negotiators, and it's something I want to implement in my own practice as well. Okay? Negotiation experts say that these 3 response tactics are as useful when speaking to your counterparty as making small talk. Who hates small talk? Okay, I think most of you actually don't mind, but yeah, you hate small talk. If you don't like small talk and you don't want to spend a lot of business meetings or discussions making small talk, making your counterparty feel that you have connected with them and you understand where they're coming from is as effective in building the relationship than making small talk about the weather or asking about their dog or their family. So this is just one element. I also don't mind small talk. Small talk is good, but it's just one other angle for you to experience or try out if small talk is challenging for you. Okay? So these points that I've spoken about are the elements of influencing behavior. And then the next section is on gathering information. How do we gather information from our counterparty in an effective way for us to discuss further in the negotiation? In our negotiation process, there are known knowns. What are the known knowns? Things like your counterparty's face. You have met them before. Or their office address. The name of their business, the product that they're selling. How have you approached previous negotiations in your experience? All of these things are known knowns to you. What are the known unknowns? You know them, but they are kind of unknown to you at the moment. You don't know yet who is the final decision maker, when they need the product delivered on board, perhaps, or the maximum number of products they have the budget for. These are all surprises you can anticipate because you have experience or you have prepared for them in the past. The third element is the unknown unknowns, the unpredictable elements, but they're unpredictable in a way that is still predictable, because once you are practiced in negotiation, you can predict that these unknown unknowns will always be appearing. Neither side are aware of the importance of these pieces of information that will ultimately change the dynamics of the negotiation process. So I don't have any specific examples of this because I think it changes from every discussion. It's an unknown. But there's a framework for the kind of questions you can ask to uncover the unknown unknowns in a negotiation process. These are some of them. Avoid why, no, not that. What questions? What, which, how? What are the biggest challenges you are facing right now? What trends will affect you? What in the maritime market will be important in the next 5 years? Or what regulations will affect your business in the near future? So negotiation is not just about the price. It's about all these important elements that can be a real game changer when you talk to your counterparty. And uncovering the unknown unknowns is a process. So it can give you really, really important and valuable insight into your counterparty's business priorities, the longevity of the partnership, whether they are a good fit to your organization's needs, and how well they understand the demands of your business and your industry, and whether they are up to date on the regulations. These questions to uncover the unknown, sorry, I'm having a bit of challenge here, but these questions you ask are leading your counterparty to examine and articulate what they want, why they want it, and how you can achieve it together. So you are demanding creativity from them and pushing them towards a collaborative solution. Yes?
So these questions about uncovering the unknown unknowns, this is regardless of whether you are the supplier or you are the customer asking those questions.
Yes. It's important for both sides to fully understand the position of your counterparty. Yes. No. This is the last word that we all think we want to hear when we're talking to our counterparty in negotiation. No is like the most negative word. But one of the authors in negotiation, I think you've read his book before, he talks about the power of no. And I will reference his book later. So this word is the last thing you want to hear. But don't be afraid of the word no, because it gives a sense of control back to your counterparty. It's a psychological decision that they feel more in control of the conversation. And more importantly, the power of no is that it allows you to continue asking questions and continuing the conversation until it leads to a yes. And yes is the goal. Yes is what we all want to hear at the end of the day. When you hear a no, ask those questions, but avoid the why questions. Don't say, why are you saying no to me? Or why don't you agree to this? But try asking what, when, and how. What will turn this agreement into a yes for you? How do you think we can achieve this? Or when do you think would be a better time for us to revisit this conversation? If you are a purchaser, I would say don't be afraid to hear a no from your supplier. If you're asking for certain prices, certain terms that are more in your favor, don't be afraid to hear a no from your supplier. And this is to all the suppliers as well. Because it means that your supplier understands and respects the boundaries of what they can and cannot do for you. And don't you think that's really important? If you have a supplier who says yes to you for everything, yes, 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 you know that they're probably not the best at what they do. Because saying no means that you understand the limitations as well. What's within your scope, like asking somebody to supply something that's completely not within their purview. So now that we've talked about the no, sorry, it's a bit slow here. Now that we've talked about the no, what are the types of yes? There are 4 types of yes that I've put into this presentation today. Counterfeit is the first yes. People use yes to allay a lot of conversations that they don't really want to have. Sometimes they'll just say yes to you because they really want to hang up the phone and not have the conversation anymore. So, and I think you all know how to identify a counterfeit yes. Or if somebody to ask you, can you ship my order to Brazil by tomorrow morning and have the customs cleared? And you say yes. It's probably not a genuine yes, because it's not been verified. You haven't verified that you've been able to do it. Confirmation yes. Confirmation yes is the first step in a real negotiation. When you get a confirmation from your counterparty that this is a go ahead. The third one is a commitment. Commitment is the highest level of yes in the negotiation framework. But for the purpose of this maritime procurement discussion, I put contract as the last one, because I think we all want to reach a contract. That's your final yes. Yes on paper. Yes that we've agreed to do business together and everything is in order. Okay? So now is the topic of listening that we talked about earlier. Listening is your superpower. Why is listening a superpower in negotiation? You think that we need to spend a lot of time talking, or whoever talks loudest or fastest will get the upper hand. But listening is your superpower. What is your counterparty trying to say? And this is the first element, tapping back on the topic of emotions that we spoke about earlier. People want to be heard. People want to be heard and understood. What they are saying is very important. And of course, interrupting is like the worst thing you can do, but really leaning into the listening element of it is one of the most effective things you can do. Oops. Listening is the most cost-effective tool at your disposal because it is free. Low cost, free cost, and high returns because of the relationship element you can build on. Listening is not passive, but it's the most active thing you can do. The last point. Being listened to well makes you more careful and articulate about how you express your needs. Because all of you are listening so well now, I'm really careful about what I say. I'm really thoughtful because people are paying attention. And when you're sitting at a negotiation table, if your counterparty is looking, of course, if they're distracted all the time, they're not paying attention, they just want you to get the paperwork over with. But if they pay attention to you, they're listening to what you are saying and the emphasis you're putting on what's important to you, it really makes you more careful about what you say. That this is my chance to get my needs on the table in the most clear way as possible so that we can reach the agreement. To summarize the two aspects, primary functions that we've talked about, influencing behavior, use the similarity principle, perform an accusation audit, and use these three response tactics. In terms of gathering information, work on uncovering the unknown unknowns. I forgot to mention also, in some of these well-read negotiation books, they refer to this as the black swan, uncovering each of your other parties' unknown unknowns. Lean into the power of no. Don't be afraid of no. And then remember the types of yes and what you want to get to at the end of it. And the last, and to me, the most important point, listening is your superpower. Don't forget that as you go on. I would like to put some sources here because these have been very transformational in my negotiation journey, in my negotiation learning. If you enjoy reading like I do, please try reading some of these books. Chris Voss written this very interesting one, Never Split the Difference. And he's put a lot of his own personal stories about negotiating for hostage release. So that's, I would say, is less applicable to business in that sense, but it's a very good reading. Sometimes when doing business, you can also feel like you're negotiating to release a hostage. So something relatable there. Getting to yes. This book was written in 1981, I think. Yes. But the principles remain until today. That's how little the emotional element, like the computers have learned, the computers have come and been developed, and systems speak better to one another, but the negotiation elements of human interaction have not really changed. We are still the same people that we were when this book was written. Also, I want to give credit to this lady. She operates a coaching business. I did not attend coaching, but it was a masterclass that I was invited to attend, and I really, really enjoyed her negotiation masterclass. So this is something that you could find interesting as well. Okay? Yeah, if you want to hold corporate training for your teams on negotiation in depth, more than what has been talked about today, she's very good at this. So, to close the discussion today, yeah, here's the bigger picture of negotiation. Do you want a deal or do you want a better deal? And that's why people want to be good negotiators, so that you get a better deal out of it. And disagreeing without being disagreeable is one of the most valuable things you can do in a negotiation, because you maintain a level of respect with your counterparty that you do not have if you lean into all these negative traits of being a negotiator. Soft skills will get you the better deals than the hard ones will. And being a good negotiator with all these elements that we've spoken about will make your counterparty come back to you again because the experience was positive for them. When good negotiators meet at the table, so say one supplier here and one purchaser here, meet next week at a meeting. And you're like, oh, we both went to the negotiation workshop at IMPA. So does that mean we work against one another? No, because you're both leaning into the emotional elements of negotiation, and you're both working to understand what your counterparty is trying to achieve. And that's what brings the win for both sides of the table. Okay? So yeah, I encourage everyone to become a good negotiator, whether you're a purchaser, you're working as a supplier, whether you're in a commercial role or an operations role, or even in the role where you think negotiation isn't important. If you think about it, negotiation is life. It's like your whole life is negotiation. Even setting the time that you snooze your alarm clock is a negotiation with yourself. Do I have another 5 minutes to sleep? What shall I wear today? What time should I arrive at IMPA? Or how will I ask more important things like, how am I going to ask my employer for my salary raise? Or negotiate better terms, I want to work from home. Something like this. Every day is a negotiation. So learning to be a good negotiator puts you in a better position in all elements of your life to succeed. Yes. You want to pay me for today? I'll negotiate. Oh, yeah, Stephen. Call Stephen and we'll do the workshop with him as well. So, yeah, I hope that you get to try some of these tips in your next supplier or purchasing meeting, and that you get to share them with your teams as well. Because I think when the world has better negotiators, we become better at what we do and we grow into better leaders. And I think especially in leadership, negotiation is a skill that I want to carry with me. As I grow in my career, and I hope as you move in yours too, being able to empathize, truly empathize with somebody else and see things from their shoes is such an important thing to do. Okay? So, actually the workshop time is a lot longer than this, but this is all the material that I've prepared for you, and I think it's quite content heavy as well. So I'll just close the workshop now, and then if you have time, we can chit chat and discuss your ideas. If you have other thoughts about negotiation that I haven't covered, come and talk to me about it. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone.